everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 12, so we are going to be talking about the YA debut authors that I read in 2018. So I feel like in 2017, I did a really good job of actually reading a lot of debut authors, but this year it just kind of got away from me like a lot of other things did in 2018, so I didn't get to as many as I would have liked to, but I did still get to a fair amount of them. So I'm going to be talking about my favorite ones that I got to this year. It was an amazing class of 2018. We have so many new and great voices added to the YA community, and like I said, there are so many more that I need to get to that I feel like I've only just gotten to the tip of the iceberg for YA debuts of 2018. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first we have Alexandra Christo, who debuted with To Kill a Kingdom, which is a Little Mermaid retelling. I feel like this was the year of Little Mermaid retellings. I have like 3 that are on my TBR, and I've only ended up reading this one, but I can't wait to get to the others. But this was a great way to start with it because it combines this siren mythology with the Little Mermaid fairy tale that you would be familiar with, and it really kind of ages up the story and makes it this kind of brutal fantasy where you're like, what is happening the entire time? I've always been intrigued by the idea of sirens, and I actually haven't read the original Little Mermaid fairy tale, so I feel like it would be really interesting to read that and then read this and see where it added its own things. But knowing the Disney movie version, I did still see a lot of similarities there, and I found this to be a really fascinating book. I loved the way that it turned the story that I was familiar with on its head, and I find the idea of sirens to be a very intriguing idea, and I feel like the combination of those two stories was really organic, and the author did a great job with it. So I can't wait to see what other retellings hopefully she'll come out with. I think I'll read anything that she comes out with, or at least I'll give another book of hers a shot since I did enjoy this one so much, but I would love to see her do some more retellings, perhaps of Alice in Wonderland. I'll never be mad about that. Next is Alice Broadway, who debuted with Ink, which is a dystopian novel, and I feel like I haven't really read a dystopian novel that I've enjoyed so much in a long time until this one came along. And this was also featured in my surprises of 2018 video because I just didn't really know what to expect from it. But it is all about this dystopian universe where there are these different tattoos that you get for all the milestones of your life, and then once you've died, those tattoos are put into this skin book, so then all of your relatives and your loved ones that you've left behind can go and look at your life and how you lived it and really reminisce and be nostalgic about the mark that you left on the world. So obviously this is a double-edged sword because you get tattoos for both your failures and all of your accomplishments, so you have literally, you're wearing like everything on your skin, which the idea of is absolutely terrifying because then anyone can see any mistakes that you've made and you're automatically just labeled for everyone. So our main character, Leora's father, has just died, and she is taking solace in the fact that she will be able to reminisce on his life in that skin book. However, then some things come to light and she realizes that her father isn't the person that she thought he always was. So she embarks on this journey of trying to figure out what is happening, what is going on in her world, and she's really seeing things in a different light for the first time because she's grown up in the society, but now she's seeing that it's not all that it may have seemed when she was growing up. I thought the world of this was fascinating. I definitely got echoes of different dystopians. It was kind of Orwellian a little bit. It reminded me of The Giver, Unwind, things like that, and that wasn't in a bad way at all. I thought that it totally was its own story with this very fascinating concept, and I loved seeing the story unfold over the course of the book, and exploring the world, as terrifying as it was very interesting. Next is Emily X. R. Pan, who debuted with The Astonishing Color of After, which made its way onto my top 10 countdown of the year at number 2, so I obviously really loved this book, and I automatically fell in love with Emily's writing. It was beautiful, so well done. Her prose is so lyrical and perfect for such a moving and impactful story. This follows our main character, Lee, after her mother has committed suicide, and she is convinced that her mother turned into a bird after she died, so there is a little bit of a magical realism element going on there, but the bird is leading her to different things, and one of the things that the bird is leading her to is to go to Taiwan and meet her mother's family. She has never had a relationship with her grandparents or anything, so she does actually end up going to Taiwan and discovering a culture that she never really got to know as much as she would have liked to, and it's kind of a journey of grief and her accepting the loss of her mother, but also wondering why, and I think it captured the process of grieving and trying to understand the loss of a loved one so well. I I think the mental health representation, in my opinion, and just from my own experiences, was very authentic and spoke to me a lot. And I know that this is a slower story, but I don't think that that is a bad thing by any means. That was like my only negative with it, is the fact that it was slow. But this book really wasn't a race. It's a slow walk through the culture that our main character is learning about and through the process of her accepting the fact that her mother is gone. So I think this was just such a beautiful book. If you're looking for something about grief and suicide isn't a trigger for you, then I would definitely try and check out this book, because I think it did an amazing job of really capturing that. Next is Emily Wibberley and Austin Seachman Broca. This author duo made it onto my top 10 list as well for their debut, Always Never Yours. I thought this was just going to be a really fun book because it is set against the backdrop of Romeo and Juliet. It's a romance and it is told by people in love because the authors are actually a couple, which I thought was adorable. And I was like, oh my god, can you imagine like what couple goals? You're writing a book together. I don't think I could ever do it, but like kudos to them for doing it and coming out with such a beautiful, cute, and fun story that also has a lot more going for it than just being cute and fun. This book follows our main character Megan, and Megan is always the girl before whoever she's dating finally finds the one that they feel like they want to settle down with, and she's totally okay with that. But over the course of the novel, you see her developing as a character a lot. You see her building these relationships that she had never really allowed herself to build before. So the synopsis is really her view of herself, if that makes sense. Like, she holds herself back a lot, and I found that was something very relatable. So the relatability of this story made it a major success for me, but it also had a really great romance going for it, and I just loved all the Shakespearean references and all that stuff. So this is a great romantic contemporary, and I highly recommend it. Next is Tomi Adeyemi, who debuted this year with the very smash hit Children of Blood and Bone. This actually won the Best Author Debut for 2018 for the Goodreads Choice Awards, which I think is very well deserved, because the fact that this is a debut fantasy novel blows my mind, because the world building is fantastically done. The writing is so amazing, and it honestly just reads like a well-seasoned author. So this book follows quite a few characters who are all in different parts of their universe. So they have different social statuses and they have different upbringings and all of that stuff. So that really gives you a full-fledged view of the world. And even though I didn't like all of the characters, I did really love a lot of them, and the world that they were in was beautiful. I loved following the quest for magic that they go on. I thought everything about this book was so well done, and it's just such a great debut. I can't even imagine writing a fantasy debut that is that good the first time around. Like, it's just so fantastic, and it makes me so excited for whatever else she is going to come out with. Like, this is so culturally rich, and you can tell that she just knows what she's talking about, and that this book was a project of her heart, and it comes through so well, and it's just a great book. There's a reason why everyone's talking about it. I kind of lost my train of thought in that sentence because Jackson started walking by, and he was so beautiful that I just couldn't not look at that majestic boy. He came into the room. And the final debut I wanted to talk about is actually one that I read in 2017, but it did come out in January of 2018, and that is Melissa Albert's The Hazel Wood. This is another book that got a lot of buzz near it coming out because the concept is so cool, and it definitely did a lot to intrigue me. So the second that anything has something to do with fairy tales, I'm like, yes, it is automatically on my list of books that I want to read, and that was definitely the case with The Hazel Wood, plus the beautiful cover doesn't hurt at all. But this is the story of our main character Alice, and Alice has led a very weird and mysterious life because she has been in seclusion with her mother for a very long time, and she has a grandmother who has written this book of fairy tales that has gained a really interesting cult following, and Alice has never actually been able to meet that grandmother because her mother has kept them apart. And Alice has lived her entire life abiding by one rule, which is to never visit the Hazel Wood, which is the estate that her grandmother lives on. But when her mother goes missing and her grandmother has died, Alice feels like she has nowhere left to turn, so she ends up going to the Hazel Wood, and dun dun dun! This is definitely a kind of slower fantasy, and there were some things that kind of irked me, but overall I felt like it was a really richly built world, and I loved the fairy tale aspect to it. I loved how dark it was. I've talked about this book quite a few times as kind of the quintessential fall Halloween novel because it does give you those creepy vibes, and it just feels like something that you would want to be reading with like a cup of coffee, curled up in a blanket on a rainy day with like rain, you know, going down the window, all that stuff. This feels like the kind of book that you would want to pick up so you can really get lost in it, because because it is such an atmospheric story. So because she was able to build such a beautiful world in this book, I can't wait to see what else she could do next. So those are all of my favorite author debuts of 2018. Like I said, there have been so many, so this was a really hard list to narrow down, but these are definitely my favorites. So please let me know what your favorite author debut of 2018 was. I would love to know. And don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click that bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm posting a new video every day up until Christmas. You can also follow me on all of my social media. All of my handles and links and all of that jazz will be down below for you guys. I will see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 13, where we're going to be talking about the new to me authors of 2018. So not authors that debuted in 2018, but authors that I finally ended up reading something of theirs this year. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 13. Bye!